to the program. This is an extended and special edition of Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimale, live in Akure, the Ondo State capital, where we are monitoring for you in the coverage of the Ondo Governorship Election 2024. I'm Sean, and my friends and my colleagues here are with me on the ground. We are combing every nook and cranny of the 18 local government areas of Ondo State to bring you up to speed with what is happening, the latest as of this moment. Stick around with us on Channels Television because we've got all of the information that you need for this very crucial election to the over 5 million people of Ondo State, whether they're at home or abroad. Tonight, we begin by letting you know what happened today in Abuja. It was a very sad moment when the burial, part of the burial rites in honor of the late Chief of Army Staff, Mr. Lagbaja, Lieutenant General Tauri Lagbaja, has been laid to rest today in Abuja, ending an illustrious military career that spans over several decades. The burial took place at the National Cemetery in the nation's capital, marking an end to 2 days of funeral rites that began in Lagos earlier this week. His body was lowered to Mother Earth at exactly 4:41 p.m. earlier today after the ceremony that lasted about over 2 hours. The late Chief, Lieutenant General Lagbaja, was then conferred with a posthumous CFR honor, and the president was at that event. Take a listen to what President Bola Tinubu said.
While we are saddened by his passing, we still celebrate his life. Thus, we must rededicate ourselves to the principles and love of a nation for which he stood. As such, I am filled with pride as the remarkable career of the selfless professional who gave everything for Nigeria. At a moment like this, we must look to the greater purpose and deepest meaning of itself. Individually, we all are nothing but mere leaves in the wind.
As the remains of our revered late Chief of Army Staff,
Then that was how it all went down earlier today in Abuja when the late Tauri Lagbaja, Lieutenant General Tauri Lagbaja, Chief of Army Staff, was laid to rest. May he so rest in peace. Tonight, we've got this extended coverage for you right here on Channels Television of the Ondo governorship election, where we'll be bringing you up to speed with all of the latest and some of the information. We do know that about 2 names have now been replaced on INEC final list of those who will be contesting for tomorrow's election. Also, we do know that there are a few information coming from INEC, the security agencies, and those issues that we need to understand going into that election. And I've got the man who is in charge of election coordination here for INEC Also, the man in charge of the coordination of the police and security for this election, both of them will be speaking with us and will be getting those kind of information, that authoritative information you need to know. But let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
As Ondo State prepares for its off-circle governorship election, President Bola Tinubu has urged all political stakeholders and the electorate to uphold peace, maintain decorum, and fulfill their civic responsibilities without fear, both before and after the elections. According to a statement from the presidency, President Tinubu anticipates a democratic process in the state that will genuinely reflect the people's will and their power to freely choose their leaders. The president commended the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for its diligent preparations for the election, particularly its timely distribution of sensitive materials across all 18 local government areas in the state. The Supreme Court has dismissed a suit instituted by 16 states of the Federation against the Attorney General of the Federation. The suit challenged the constitutionality of the acts establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit (NFIU), and the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission (ICPC), deeming it lacking in merit. Delivering the lead judgment, Justice Uwani Abaji held that the states were entirely wrong in arguing that the EFCC, established by an act of the National Assembly, was an illegal and unlawful body. Justice Abaji, who led a 7-member panel of justices, ruled that the EFCC Act, being a convention rather than a treaty, does not require the ratification of state houses of assembly. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara says he will prioritize effective governance despite the political distractions that have plagued his administration since taking office. The governor made this commitment during the 4th convocation ceremony of Palmer University of Medical Sciences at Iriebe in Obio-Akpo local government area. He emphasized that his administration's focus on improving the socio-economic well-being of Rivers State reflects the people's aspiration to break free from long-standing domination. He also expressed a strong determination to deliver effective governance despite ongoing political crisis. Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule has distributed 30 tractors to the 13 local government areas and the traditional council of the state. Speaking during the distribution in Lafia, the governor stated that the initiative aims to enhance mechanized agriculture with 2 tractors allocated to each of the 13 local government areas. According to Governor Sule, 2 tractors were given to the traditional council, while the remaining 2 were set aside for commercial farmers in the state.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on Politics Today, our extended special edition of the program focusing on the Ondo governorship election. So let's get started. Ondo governorship election, we've been talking about it for several weeks, and candidate voters have been expecting the day to come. Now the day is just few hours away. But what do we need to know as far as this election is concerned? Some of the basic information that are very important for this election. Take a listen or look at some of them. Of course, we do know that Ondo State is a state in the southwest region of the country. Of course, Ondo State is an oil-producing state, and it benefits from the oil derivation sharing quota. It was created in 1976, and the capital is Akure, as 18 local government areas with about 15,500 kilometers of land area, and it has a voter population of about 2,553,061 voter registered voters in Ondo State. And of course, the electoral wards and RAs are 203. The polling units are 3,933, and the senatorial districts are 3 of them: 9 federal constituencies, 26 state assembly constituencies in Ondo State. That is what we do know about this election. What are the other things that we also need to understand? We understand now that INEC has earlier today released an information indicating that there are 2 political parties whose candidate has been replaced. INEC in a statement today says the commission as yesterday, 14 November 2024, served with a certified true copy of the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court Abuja Division and ordered the commission to accept Olushola Ebiseni as the candidate of the Labour Party for the 2024 Ondo governorship election. However, in the appeal with reference number CAABJCCV 1172/2024 filed by the Labour Party, the Court of Appeal Abuja Division struck out the judgment of the Federal High Court for lack of jurisdiction. In obedience to the court order, the commission has restored Olorunfemi Ayodele Festus, whose name was first published as a Labour Party candidate for the 2024 Ondo State governorship election, and uploaded same to the website for public information. That is a statement coming from INEC. Let's get more from INEC. I'm being joined by the National Commissioner for INEC, who is coordinating the entire election, and is the National Commissioner in charge of this region. I'm being joined by Professor Kunle Ajayi. Thank you, Prof. And it's good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Good evening, dear Sato.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's begin with that information. As of yesterday, on this platform, we were speaking with the Labour Party candidate, Chief Shola Ebiseni. But give us an understanding. What has changed? Does it mean that there is going to be another candidate representing the party to tomorrow's election?
Let me start by saying that INEC is a law-abiding institution. We abide by whatever decisions are taken by the courts. Once the court has pronounced that a particular candidate is the rightful candidate for LPA, we don't have any option than to adopt that candidate. And there's no problem in that. We do not publish names of candidates on the ballot paper. So it's easy for us to swap from one to the other because we only publish names of parties and their logos in our ballot paper. But on record, we know that this is the actual candidate contesting the election. In our records, it will reflect it. But on the ballot paper, we do not reflect names of candidates. So nothing is lost by the court judgment.
So we just want to know the status, because we do know that voters and people do not only vote for political parties, they also vote for the candidate. Yes. Sometimes candidates are the reasons why people go to the to vote. Yeah. So establish for us the decision now, as of today. How many names? We do know from what you said today, 13 people are on your list, right? But it looks like you changed 2 political parties, that of NRM and LP. Is that right?
We have 18 candidates on our list. 18 candidates made up of 18 men, no women. 18 men, no women. It's under deputy governorship candidates that we have 3 women. But for NRM, we are going to take the candidate as decided by the court. Equally, we are going to take the candidate of the LP declared by the court as declared by the court. That is our position.
So you changed NRM and you changed Labour Party.
Yes.
That is the situation.
Yes, sir.
As of today.
Yes, sir.
As of now.
As we rightly read from our bulletin.
Absolutely.
Yes,
so
sir.
Give us an understanding. Is there anything that has changed between yesterday and today as far as this election is concerned?
As far as the ballot is concerned, nothing is changing.
So how ready is INEC for tomorrow?
Yes. Please permit me to start from a conclusion, to respond with a conclusion. INEC is 100% ready for this election. We are absolutely ready for this election. Mind you, we started preparations about a year ago. Statutorily, we have to start preparation minimum 360 days to the election day. So we have started this our preparations since about a year ago. So we have left nothing untouched in our preparations. This week marks the grand finale of our preparations. As at now, the organization was represented. We were at the Central Bank yesterday to distribute the sensitive materials, ballots, the necessary forms, then waivers. We distributed them yesterday. The organization was represented with other media organizations. All other stakeholders were present in the distribution. They witnessed everything, and everything went well. The distribution went to the local government headquarters yesterday. All the 18 local government headquarters received their sensitive materials, including ballots and waivers and EC8 forms yesterday. And by today, we started moving to registration areas. As I'm talking to you, all the registration areas, 203 registration areas have received all their sensitive materials. And it's as good. If you ask us to start this evening, we are going to start, but statutorily, we are going to start by 6 a.m. tomorrow. I can assure you, all polling units will be open. Everything will get to all the polling units by 6 a.m. I can assure you of that. All of them will open. There will be no cases of late arrival of materials to polling units. We have done our own work, and we are proud of what we have done, and we will not disappoint people of Ondo State.
I mean, if you look at it, we got similar assurances in Edo State.
Yeah.
But on the morning of the election, there were some glitches. There were some difficulties in terms of logistics and operation logistics. And when we wonder, where does INEC get it wrong? The question is whether the commission has learned from what happened a few weeks ago in Edo State, and INEC has been able to seek redress and be able to address some of these issues. Have you been able to do that?
I want to assure you, this is Ondo State and not Edo State.
Ondo is not Edo.
This is not Edo State. This is Ondo State. I'm assuring you, everything will go well. As I've just told you, as at 3 p.m., all RAs have received all their sensitive materials. The next thing is to move to the PU. I taught some of the RAs this afternoon, and we have 3 commissioners on ground. I'm in charge of Ondo Central. We have another one in charge of Ondo North, another one in charge of Ondo South. We have all moved around to ensure that the RAs got all their sensitive materials. Before I left office, we have the reports that it has been completed. I have the records with me here that all RAs have received all sensitive material. We are just waiting, just few hours now, to go for the balloting. Just few hours. Everything, if you get to the RAs, it's like an hotel on its own. Everything to take care of our SPOs, our POs, our APOs. They are just waiting. All they are waiting for is to say, go, please move. And I can assure you, please go around. By 6, you find them at the polling units. So we don't have any logistic challenges at all. Even at the riverine areas, the Navy, everybody has taken care of riverine. We have transporters on the riverine too. We have a riverine transport association. All those things have been taken care of. Everything has been taken care of. We don't have any problem with logistics at all.
There are very prominent water bodies in Ondo State. There are River Wena, Ulua, Oni, Awaro, Bashe, Awano, and those river bodies that makes it a bit difficult to be able to reach some of the riverine areas. And these are areas where whenever elections happen, to get materials or get officials across these areas becomes a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
In terms of that, how much of these boats and transportation do you have?
We have 2 types of transportation for this election. We have the vehicles, land vehicles on the land. Then we have the boats on water. But there are some other areas that even vehicles cannot get to. We provide Okada for them. So
that's motorbikes.
Motorbikes, yes, it's motorbikes. Yeah.
So there are non-motorable areas in those.
Yes.
So you have to transport officials
to those points.
Yeah.
Motorbikes will take over.
Which areas are these?
There's some, maybe around Ose area, long distant areas that have hilly terrain. So we have identified them, and they are all there. They are waiting. All those areas have been mapped out. So on the riverine areas, vehicles will get to the riverside, then boats will take over. The Navy, the boat, the river transporters, every one of them, they are out there. We don't have any problem as far as logistics is concerned.
You know, the reason why I'm asking you over and over about this is that we get these assurances from INEC on the eve of the election that, oh, everything is set. And we do know that these assurances, Prof, come with what INEC, just for a moment, Prof, come with the assurances that INEC, based on their own mapping, based on their own preparations, but you give third parties part of this job to do, and it's sometimes on the part of these third parties that things begin to fall apart. What assurances have you got? Because some of these transporters are the ones that are always giving you problems.
That was in the past, but remember, this is stand.
Is it past as far back as as recent as
this is a stand-alone election? When we are doing general election, we may have such a problem because of the number of vehicles that will be required. But this is a stand-alone election. If you were at the distribution point at the Central Bank yesterday, you will see the quality of vehicles brought to that place. Brand new, they are like brand new. I was even impressed. They are like brand new. These are vehicles that cannot break down. So the transporters ensure that vehicles that are of high grade, of high quality, were brought in, not can break down. So maybe they have mopped up from other areas, I don't know, but we have adequate number of vehicles on ground yesterday. Nothing, we didn't have any.
And we're being critical about this, Prof, because the assurances we got in Edo, as at 8:30, 9 o'clock, in fact, 9:30 in some areas, materials have not arrived some polling units in Edo State. And these are areas where there are a lot of people thought that they were even a few kilometers away from the city center. Now, the reason why I asked you the question about the third parties is because a lot of the times they failed you and they keep doing that over and over again. But it does look like INEC has his hands tied and you don't have a choice. Have you been able to walk around in the using of the third parties? What assurances have you gotten?
We had meetings, series of meetings with transporters. Their bodies, both at the national level and the local level. It was as recent as last week. We sat down, we examined we put everything on the table. What were your problems as far as this election logistic aspect is concerned? And we are on everything. And the result of the consultation with them came out yesterday when we were transporting sensitive materials to local governments. As I told you, the type of vehicles they brought, I never knew that we would have such a thing.
For election?
Yes, the quality of vehicles they brought, they are like brand new vehicles. I was so impressed, like the rickety ones they used to bring in the past. So this is a different ball game, sir. And I don't want you to compare here with what happened
so that's in the past.
Yes.
We should look forward to the future.
Yes.
And this is a brand new INEC departure from what we're seeing.
I assure you. I will. Please call me back and say, remind me of what I've said, whether it will be different from what will happen tomorrow. Remind me, call me here to the open and ask me. But you promised that this will not happen, and it didn't happen. But I can assure you, everything will go smoothly.
There was a time that INEC used to place trackers on your vehicles, just to know, especially when they are carrying materials, just to know how far, where they've gone and all that. Are there trackers also on some of the vehicles?
We have the telephone numbers and names of all drivers. We have the names of all EOs attached to each vehicle. When they were moving yesterday from the central bank to the local governments, the names, the telephone number of each driver to a vehicle, the security going with them, with each of them, we documented them. And as they were going, we are calling them one by one. Where did you get to? Where are you? What happened? Nothing. Okay. Have you arrived? They arrived. We write the time, the arrival time. We write it down. That's how we track everything. And today too, that's how we track everything. Apart from the fact that I travel to some of these arrays, other commissioners travel to their areas of P2, to their sectorial district, and we all came out with good news that materials have reached the arrays very successfully.
Let's take a breather. And the reason why I asked the question, I remember I was in Mr. Shegun Agbaje's office some time ago when there was an off-cycle election, and he was showing us the tracking devices placed on some of the vehicles. And whenever the vehicle stopped, they call and say, okay, what's the problem? They say they want to refuel, or they have a flat tire, or they want to eat on the road, and all what have you. It's easy. But it's different from the telephone I was asking, whether you don't have the trackers, do you? No.
No.
There are no trackers.
No.
The only way to know is to call them. To call them.
We call the driver, we call the EO, we call the security officer attached to them. And they all confirm they have gotten to their destination successfully.
All right, let's take a breather.
Yes, sir. And we made it compulsory for all the vehicles, no posters, no stickers of any kind that relates to political parties. So when I saw the cars, the first thing I expected was that I made sure that the cars were clean, no single posters on them.
Let's take a breather, Prof.
Yes,
but when we come back, there are also very critical questions as to not only the readiness of INEC, but the integrity of the process. That is not going to be the only question we'll be asking. We'll also be joined by the DIG in charge of security for this election, DIG Tope Alabi, will also be joining us later on the program. But stick around, we'll be right back after this break, everyone. Join us again. Everyone for staying with us on the program. Professor Kunle Ajayi is the coordinating national commissioner for the Ondo governorship election for INEC. He's been speaking with us. Before we get into security, because we need to talk about the conduct, but INEC cannot conduct the election all by itself. It needs the help of the security agency. So the DIG in charge is already in the studio, and after our conversation with Professor Ajayi, we'll be talking to DIG Tope Alabi. But give us an understanding. There are a few concerns, though, as to the transparency of the process. There are people who are looking at what you will do with the beavers. Are the beavers 100%?
Yeah. I'm confirming that we are going to use beavers. And our beavers have been fully charged and fully configured. And they have been moved to the arrays.
How many numbers of beavers do you have?
Of beavers?
Beavers.
Of beavers, we have a beaver goes to each polling unit.
But usually you have extra.
Which means we have 3,933 beavers active. But in case of any challenge with any of them, we have backup that can be easily replaced whichever one is having problem. Like any other machine, you can develop for certain time. But we have technicians at the background, and we have backup beavers in case any of them develops problem at any time. We will quickly replace them. And that is for beavers. And the other technology we're going to use is RF. Immediately the results are counted, they will be transmitted to the IRF.
Have your officials been properly trained now on how to take pictures of the result? Because there are litany of pictures, even in the case of Edo election, there are a lot of pictures of results that are unreadable, based on whether ignorance or inability to use some of these devices by some of the officials.
We have been training our staff for like 3 months. Then we have trained our SPOs, we have trained our POs, our APOs, every one of them have been trained. And in addition to that, there's a backup technician, the RACTEX, at the back to stand by in case there's any problem, they will quickly come in. So I can assure you, the beavers will work very well. And we have tested them before moving them to local governments and arrays. They are tested, yes, as part of our readiness preparation Last week, we conducted mock accreditation. And everywhere we went, the papers worked very well. Display the pictures showing the thumbprint of the candidates that showed up.
So, do the voters need to clean their hands, their fingers? Because sometimes the readability, they say, is also dependent on how the sensitivity of the sensor to be able to read your fingers. Or, I mean, the beavers can read that even with the dirt or any stain on your hand.
If thumbprinting fails, facial picture will not fail. If facial picture fails, thumbprinting will not fail. We have not seen a situation where the two fails. If the two fails, it means
that's something wrong.
That's not the owner of the.
So there are different layers into accreditation and authentication of the voter.
Yes.
You first of all check your name, whether it's on the voter register. Mm-hmm. Then you also reconcile it with your permanent voter card. Without a permanent voter card, you cannot vote.
You cannot vote.
Now the beavers will have to read the PVC.
You bring out your picture,
your
facial picture.
Yeah, it will. You swipe. Usually, you swipe the PVC underneath the beavers, and it will bring out the information.
Your picture.
Because every polling unit that will have the register also have loaded on it the beavers. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Then the accreditation then goes on into the biometrics.
Is that right?
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Then you are accredited. Then you go take your ballot paper and you go to conduct. Is that the situation?
That's all. That's just the procedure.
So everything is still intact.
Yes. The remaining collation, counting of ballots after 2:30. After 2:30, they start counting. From there, they transfer it to IRF. That is the end for that
the polling unit. Yeah.
But they will still take the paper result to the next collation center where they have to show it. So that does it.
Now, tell us, in the case of those who are not able to finish voting at 2:30, by the INEC guidelines, you can still be
the
on
law
the
says as long as you are on the line by 2:30, even if they are 1,000, we will wait for them
until they finish, until the last person on the queue. So the polling unit opens at 8:30.
Yes.
Voting exercise start at 8:30.
Yes, sir.
But you open way before then.
That's good to show our readiness. If you get there, you meet us. You know, by 6:30 you are there. To show our readiness. So the ones you said you captured in Edo will not occur here.
Is the rec still the one that is resident here?
Yes.
Because there are agitation that she should be removed.
Who said so?
I mean, some political parties were agitating. Oh, she grew up here. You know, all of those issues. Did INEC even consider those?
That is just mere politics. They can't substantiate it. The allegations. But your organization was at the stakeholders meeting. Mm-hmm. One or two political parties said they had absolute confidence in the rec.
One of it.
Yes.
But another political party said, look, this person has been...
Even when that one or two spoke, nobody contradicted him. Among them, none contradicted him. And all of them were at the central bank yesterday to witness the distribution. We took pictures together. All of us took pictures together, including the rec. None of them said, no, we cannot take pictures with her. No, it's just politics. That
so INEC is ignoring all of that and focus on
we
the
investigated.
The woman is...
We investigated on our own. Security submitted reports on her. All those things they were not substantiated. They were just mere speculation.
So the woman was found clean?
Feel free. He said, yeah.
All right.
She's not found wanting in anything.
So
she's a professional to the core. I can show you. You know, it's a lawyer. Mm-hmm. She has the legal drafting department of INEC before she was appointed. She's a thorough woman, sound woman, very sound and very professional. And that is the advantage I have as a supervisory commissioner here, unlike the previous one. Free, he gave me, no problem, no challenges, because she knows what she's doing. She knows, and when people are doing the right thing, people don't want you to do the right thing. Even you are saying in channels, people will criticize you for asking questions, this and that, because they don't like what you are saying. They will abuse you. That the same thing, our work, the same thing, because she is doing the right thing. she doesn't give room for any manipulations, then she's a bad woman. She has to be removed. For what? For doing her job. A career officer never received a query in her life. Never.
Let's look at tomorrow. What final assurance do you have for voters who are willing to go out tomorrow?
I want to assure the people of Ondo State that the election we are having tomorrow will be free, fair, and transparent. And the results will have full integrity and credibility. Everybody will be included. We are going to have an inclusive election and finally a conclusive election, I can assure you. And everybody will be happy with INEC. That is the assurance I'm giving the people of Ondo State. INEC has no candidate. We don't have a political party. None at all. So we are not supporting any candidate. We are neutral. We are completely neutral. We don't have a candidate at all. And people's vote will count tomorrow. That is the assurance I'm giving the people of Ondo State.
Before I allow you go,
yeah,
some civil society who are observing this election, they have a few concerns. Let me allow you to listen. This one from the Elect R. They are also an observer group who are monitoring this election. Situation Room is also, civil society Situation Room are also observing this election. I think first, let's listen to the situation, civil society election Situation Room. They have their observation, they have their reservation about a few things they thought that INEC should check going into tomorrow's exercise. Take a listen to them.
INEC plays a pivotal role in ensuring the credibility of this election. While we commend the assurance or assurances provided by the Resident Electoral Commissioner regarding INEC preparedness, it is vital to note the general acknowledged lapses in the last governorship election held in Edo State. It is gratifying to know that INEC promised to learn from the lessons gathered from Edo election. We hope that INEC will show the willingness and capacity to live up to that promise. Timely opening of polling units, and election logistics. INEC should ensure that polling units open on time, as any delay can disenfranchise voters and undermine the credibility of the process.
The 2024 gubernatorial election in Ondo State is a pivotal moment for reinforcing democratic trust and inclusivity. Key challenges such as internal party tensions, youth and women's disengagement, and lingering public skepticism about INEC's readiness threatening voter turnout and confidence. Despite efforts to enhance transparency and security, past logistical issues have eroded trust, making clear recommendation and robust support for marginalized. For this election to strengthen democratic integrity, INEC and civic groups must address these concerns through transparency, balanced security, and proactive voter engagement. Success here could foster renewed public trust, engaging a more inclusive and resilient democracy in Ondo State.
You heard them, the civil society organizations, but finally, Prof, they have their concerns. They're asking INEC to do the right thing. They're hoping that INEC will do the right thing. Transparency of the process, accountability of the process, early arrival of materials and officials for the exercise. These are critical questions that have been raised.
I think I've assured our evidence of all those. But you have to know something about observation. You have to know something about them. They have their own interest. They have vested interest. One way or the other, they have vested interest. And many foreign observers believe that until an opposition wins an election, you have not conducted a good election. Please believe that. Until opposition wins, you have not conducted a good election. I've been at least this year, I've been to 2 foreign election, two countries for observation. You are not allowed to say anything. But Nigeria is so free. We allow them to say anything. But unfortunately, they are saying things based on the interest of their sponsors. You know they have sponsors. They have to satisfy their sponsors. I saw a friend of mine among them. I said, why are you always writing things negative? And he told me that, let me tell you incompetence. We have to write to satisfy our sponsors. They told me that incompetence. I'm sorry for leaking that. So it's not everything that they are saying that you have to believe. Not everything that they are saying. They have to put down report that is negative in a way.
The realities of what we see on the ground also, Prof, about some of the inabilities and incapacities of INEC that INEC also need to work on. And these are the questions they are raising.
Most of the things they are saying are not funded. Let's be clear about that. Please, we can't be saying everything here. But one of them told me that intentionally they have to write negative report because of their sponsors.
If INEC does positive, I'm not sure anybody will write negative.
We can talk more about that.
The idea is that tomorrow, will INEC do the right thing?
We will do the right thing, I can assure you. I've said this several times.
What about vote buying? What are you doing to curb that?
Vote buying, I think a security officer is coming on board. INEC has no powers to arrest anybody. But ICPC, EFCC, the police, they will all be on ground to arrest people either selling or buying votes. It is the responsibility of security agencies to prevent, to curb, or to arrest anybody engaging in vote buying. That is not the responsibility of INEC. We have no power to arrest anybody. It is the responsibility of the security agencies. And that is why we have ICES, Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. So it is the responsibility of ICES to look into that. And the DIG is here, and I think it will explain better on that.
Thank you so much indeed. Professor Kunle Ajayi, I wish you the very best. You've given us assurances.
Yes.
We'll be holding you to those assurances.
Call me back.
We will call you back.
Oh, please call me back.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break, everyone. But when we return, we will be joined by DIG Abiodun, the DIG in charge. Didn't just keep my mind now. Alabi will be joining us to tell us about the security preparations ahead of tomorrow's exercise. We'll be right back, everyone. Everyone, for staying with us. We're still covering for you and monitoring all of what is happening, the activities right here in Ondo State, as we look forward to the very last few hours to the governorship election of Saturday, the 16th day of November 2024. I'm being joined by the DIG, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, who is in charge of election security for the governorship election. DIG Abiodun Alabi is live for us here. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I don't know why I keep calling you Tokwe Alabi. I think Tokwe Alabi is a more popular name than Abiodun Alabi, but you don't sing, do you?
I don't know.
Thank you so much, DIG, for joining us. How secured are things ahead of tomorrow's election?
Perfectly. Everything is secured. We put in place a lot of security measures to assure members of the public, the voters, that the election will take place under a very conducive and peaceful atmosphere. And in line with our operation order, our officers have been deployed to various local governments, all the 18 local governments, being manned by a commissioner of police each. All the local governments are being manned by a commissioner of police each.
All the local governments?
Yes.
So you have 18
local governments, 18
CPs.
commissioner of police in charge of all the 18 local governments.
Wow, that's how serious this election is.
Yes, because we don't want to take chances. We don't want to take anything for granted. Because this is an obstacle election, so we have the manpower to deploy very well, so that at the end of the day, we will be able to tell Nigerians that we can actually conduct a very peaceful election without any problem. Because there's a need for us to dominate the security space. So we actually deployed all our officers to all the local governments, even the wards, and by tomorrow, all the 3,903 polling units will be well covered.
So how many men do you have presently?
We have about
the total number.
We have about 34,000 police officers.
On the ground?
Yeah, on the ground.
And aside Canaan, or including Canaan?
No, including all the tactical units and the Canine and,
including the area surveillance team?
All.
The ones that are going to be on the water?
Yes, the Marine Police.
The Marine Police?
Yes,
all of them?
All.
There are 30?
About 34,000.
About 34,000. Yes. That's massive.
Yes.
I mean, is it looking like the election is over-policed?
Not really, not really. We are just trying to ensure that we don't take chances, we don't take things for granted. We just want to dominate the security space to let people know that we cannot allow anybody to truncate the electoral process, particularly because we have intelligence that some people are trying to organize some militias, so trying to truncate the electoral process.
Is it around the waterways, around the riverine area, or even in the upland?
Well, I don't want to really divulge the areas where we have a resource of our threat analysis, so that we don't cause panic in the minds of people in those areas.
But also, the voters need to also know, so that they will know that you are on top of the game.
No, yeah, you see, what is important to the voters is the type of security and placement we have been able to do to reassure them that they can come out and vote without any problem.
So in essence, give us an understanding. Where are your hotspots that you have identified going into this election?
Well, you are still bringing me back to that issue of, telling you the areas we have identified to be flashpoints. Like I said, I don't want to really come up that this is the area that we have seen that there's going to be problems. It's going to cause a lot of panic, in the minds of the voters in those areas. They might not want to come out because of what we're going to say, but we are keeping at our chest. What I can assure you is that we have in place adequately, security measures, proactively, through our intelligence gathering to enable us deal decisively with or to nip at the bud any problem that may arise in those areas.
So the major worry will be the perimeters of the coming in and out.
Yeah.
And Ondo State is bordered by at least 3 states. It means that there are possibility of people who are into commerce and trade trying to move in and out, and there is a declaration of curfew from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Is that right?
That's true. No movement. We are going to restrict everybody's movement. We don't want anybody to infiltrate the state. It's part of the intelligence we have had that some people are trying to bring in thugs, hoodlums from neighboring states, Edo, Oshun, to come and cause problems there. And we are not going to allow that to happen. So we have already, we are working hard enough with the military. We are going to take care of our border, supporting our forces in those areas. So that we are not going to allow anybody to infiltrate the state to come and cause problem for us. Those areas are already well manned now.
So there are those who will say, intelligence will tell you that those who foment or perpetrate evil or foment trouble would have been on the ground before the curfew that you have set. And those who say earlier before now, there are stories and reports of those who are with arms and those who are with small and light weapons. Have you discovered those?
Well, you see, that one has been dealt with decisively by the Commissioner of Police of the Command, in conjunction with the other security agencies. They have been on this election issue for the past 2 to 3 weeks, having regular meetings. And those ones that they have seen to be hoodlums, that can cause problems within the state, some of them have been picked, interrogated, and possibly after screening them, find out that, okay, it's just mere allegations, and then they've been set free.
So they were arrested before now?
I think invitation for interrogation, not really arrest like that. Just to confirm the authenticity of the information they had, the intelligence they had about them.
I mean, the allegations against the police that you are planning to pick up opposition leaders, is it true?
It's baseless. As far as I'm concerned, nothing like that.
And you're not sure any of your junior officers is being used for such a thing?
That cannot happen.
To pick up opposition for leaders in some of these communities?
Of course, I'm in charge of the conduct of the election. I'm under my command and control. Nothing like that will happen under me without me knowing about it. And I'm assuring you that there is nothing like that at the moment.
In the
Nobody
case of
has told
things
us.
that have similar things that have happened in the past, there are those who will say that looks like the modus or the MO, the modus operandi of political parties or politicians who use security agencies to intimidate opposition in the state.
We are not supposed to intimidate anybody. We are supposed to be neutral. We police, we are neutral, and we have been professional, here. There is no reason why we have to just be used by any political party against other political party. We will not allow that to happen. Because we don't belong to any political party. We are police officers, law enforcement, officers that will carry out our statutory duties without being used by anybody. Like I told you, under my command and watch, nobody can just go and pick anybody without, ascertaining or establishing any offense against that person.
So the light weapons that I was talking about, the small and light weapons that we understand have already come into Ondo State. Did you see them? Have you identified them? Have you been able to apprehend? Do you have that intelligence that some of us have?
Yes, basically before I came in, like I told you, the Commissioner of Police, in conjunction with other security agencies, have been doing that. And I think to a large extent, we have been rest assured that, nothing like that is going to happen. Of course, we are not going to give them any room to operate with any. It's a criminal offense for you to possess firearms. It's a criminal offense. So we are not going to allow anybody to use any, whether light arms or whatever arms you call it, during the election or even after the election.
So the question is that, are you able to, is it true, the report that there were inflow of light and small weapons into Ondo State?
I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that. And I don't think there's anything like that.
What about the issues of the militias and some of these groups, because of the oil-producing areas, areas that have known a lot of militia groups and have known some of these militants in the past, and for the sake of election, they are regrouping again?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, with the intelligence we have been able to put in place, and with the activities of our marine police, in conjunction with the Navy around the maritime areas, we have not had any intelligence to that effect that militias are planning to unleash enemy mayhem or infiltrate the states through the waterways.
Give us an understanding about the waterways and how you hope to police it.
We have our marine police on ground, and like I told you, they are not working alone because they work up to 12 nautical miles, and with the cooperation and the collaboration with the naval officers, they have been able to police our waterways effectively, particularly in Ondo State. We have not been having any issues from our maritime areas, that's in waterways. There is no situation report that has been given to us, reflecting that we have been having issues along our waterways.
There are about 4 to 5 local government areas that are being identified. The Lagbaja, the CSOs, and KDI, one of the observer groups. I'm very sure you must have seen that report.
Identified as what?
That's hotbeds.
Well, you are still dragging me back to that issue.
Because the voters are interested
like I told
to know.
Anyway, if you are telling me, if I'm hearing that one from you, that yes, Lagbaja has been identified as a very hotspot, well, if it's one of those ones that you have had, be rest assured that adequate security measures have been put in place. We've deployed, necessary security forces that can contend with any emerging issues or emergencies in those areas.
So the question is that what should the voters be looking out for?
From the police?
In their surroundings, if these organizations have identified 4 to 5 local government areas to look out for, what information do you think will help the voters to be able to keep them secure?
The information I want to pass to the voters is for them to be assured that their security is guaranteed. Police will definitely create an enabling environment, a very conducive atmosphere where they will have opportunity to exercise their civic responsibilities.
So give us an understanding. What are the challenges that you envisage before moving into Ondo State? Those areas that you thought that you need to tighten up security. Give us an understanding of those challenges.
Well, to be sincere, I think after carrying out a comprehensive threat analysis, we had this information that some politicians are trying to, use some thugs to disrupt the electoral process. But after carrying out those threat analysis and basically through our intelligence gathering, we've been able to find out that most of these are just, an alarm. I'm not saying actually that things like that may not suffice, but then we have the capability and the ability to contend with them before it happens or before it becomes manifest.
So in this election, there are critical areas that a lot of people think that the police need to rise above board. Is in the area of vote buying. Already, some civil society organizations said vote buying is already going on even before the election day. Do you have any arrangement to curb vote buying?
Yes, very well. We put in place a strategic plan to that effect. We are going to work hand in hand with the ICPC and the FCC. They are already on ground. We had meetings yesterday with all the heads of security agencies, and this issue came up, during our interaction. We had a very robust and, fantastic interaction yesterday with regards to the issue of vote buying. Through intelligence, we can easily identify any area that we have said vote buying will take place, and I can assure you that those ones who are engaged in it will be arrested and prosecuted diligently. We are not going to take chances about it at all.
What will be different from the past election? What measures are you putting in place? Because that I think is important for our viewers.
I've told you that we have put in place some strategic plan and that will be implemented by us in collaboration with the EFCC and the ICPC to actually prevent vote buying.
How? How? What are these measures?
Well, one of the measures that I told you is putting in place strategic plans. We have our plans that I really want to, because when you say it out, then you already expose our tactics, and before you know it, people might be very wary of getting involved in it. But you see, the only thing I can assure you is that it will definitely not take place on the day of the election. I can assure you that.
So the question is, those who bring food, who are good to people at the polling unit, who just show the sheer goodness and kindness, could they be in trouble for merely bringing food, drinks? Some of them even bring tents for people to stay under.
Oh, no.
But could this be seen as inducement or some form of vote buying?
Who are those people bringing food? Of course, if you look at your electoral laws, I don't think there's a need for anybody to do that. If you want to give anybody any food, let him vote, let him finish voting, and leave the environment, leave the polling environment, and go back to his house or come and meet you wherever you want to give him food. I think that's better. But carrying food to a polling unit to give somebody to eat could be seen as an inducement to vote for a political party.
So what do you regard as vote buying?
Your guess is as good as mine. Giving money to induce somebody to vote for that political party.
How do you know that is vote buying? Because how do you know that it's been induced? If someone just gives,
why will it take place?
Things are difficult, things are hard.
Why will it take
and
place?
If you get free money,
why will it take place on the day of the election?
So
why
day
of the election? Why not before the election or after the election?
How much money is too much to carry around the polling unit?
No matter the amount of money that is much, it doesn't matter. What is important is that you don't give anybody anything on that day to induce him to vote for any political party. If you want to give anybody any gift or any food, it shouldn't be during election period.
So
because election period is sacrosanct, that nothing should be seen that could sway, the electoral process.
From our own experience and monitoring our coverage of election, we do know that vote buying usually don't happen within the confines of the polling booth or the polling unit. They happen in the corners. There are those who have the list and a booklet where they have listed the names of those who will be the beneficiary, the would-be beneficiaries of the vote buying. And they are staying in the corner waiting for them to be able to do the will of the buyers. And there are those who think that they are a bit more intelligent than those who are watching them to arrest them, in the sense that they're looking above their own shoulders to ensure that they're not being caught.
Sure.
What intelligence do you have to ensure
that will not happen on the day of election? There is going to be an intensive vehicular patrol and foot patrol by our tactical units to prevent what we are trying to analyze here. I don't think there's anybody in the Chinese sciences that will stay around the polling unit to start giving people money to go and before they vote. Definitely because of the dominance of the police presence, that will not happen. And anybody that is still doing that will be picked.
Is it true that you have plainclothes officers who are intelligence officers parading around that we do not know?
Of course.
So
we have a department.
You've infiltrated everywhere.
We have a department called Force Intelligence Department. They don't wear uniform. And principally their major work is to gather intelligence for us to implement whatever they have gathered.
So they are even around our environment.
Of course.
Nobody sees them, nobody knows them. They are just there embedded.
You may not even know that maybe one of them is even around your studio here, monitoring what's going on here.
We need to decongest the studio so that your men will not infiltrate our studios. That's just a joke.
Yes.
But we just wanted to know how prepared, because a lot of people want to be sure that this election is free and fair. And that's the kind of assurance they would like to get.
Yeah, I want to assure the people of all those states that we've been able to put adequate security measures in place. Like I said earlier on, all the 18 local governments will be properly manned by a commissioner of police. Deputy commissioner of police will be assisting them. We even have a commissioner of police, will be working with them, apart from our tactical units that will be deployed to them for intensive patrol and to respond swiftly and properly to any emerging threats that may arise. We have really deployed adequate personnel to all nooks and crannies, and more so that we are going to embark on a serious intensive and regular patrol to ensure that we don't allow any hoodlums to come out and cause mayhem during the election period. So everybody should feel free to go out and exercise their franchise without any molestation or harassment.
The IG said that the police will not take any nonsense.
We will not. It's a marching order. We will not.
You will be brutal.
No. We are going to work within the confines of the law. Now, we are not lawless. We will work within the confines of the law.
Now, give us an understanding of the curfew, what you will allow and what you will not allow, because a lot of the times it seems that there are some overzealous police officers. They are mounting roadblocks, and people need to move from just their house to the polling unit, those who will live around. These roadblocks, what should we be expecting?
I know the stop and search is just to ensure that we don't allow people to infiltrate the state. That's one. Then two, we are going to enforce to the letter, restriction of movements on the day of the election. That's tomorrow. From 0600. In fact, it starts from this midnight. We start trying to watch people's movements and how they move and what they do before tomorrow morning. Then from 0600 hours, there'll be complete restriction of movement of everybody, to the area of polling units.
So 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, no movement in and out of the state.
Of course, we're going to restrict movements.
Is there any problem with political leaders and actors who are already in the state? Because there are politicians who are complaining that, these political parties have their leaders, their governors. These political parties, when they did their rally, they retained their leaders in the state, and those. Have you heard those kind of complaints?
I've not heard any complaint of that, to the best of my knowledge. I think, from what I've observed, the political parties have been coming to Ondo State to campaign, and some of them have been staying behind, and nobody has done anything to any one of them, because they are free to be around. But what they are not free to do is to come out on the election day and start campaigning or start inducing people to vote for them. So if anybody wants to stay, they are free to stay wherever they feel like staying. So nobody is going to pursue anybody because you don't belong to one political party or the other. It's a choice to stay.
As long as they stay indoors.
Yes.
Or they don't disrupt
on the election
process.
day. Yes.
Now, how do we identify the police officers on special duties?
We have tags that have been distributed to all police officers working in all the 3 central districts.
So we are supposed to, every officer that is to man all the 34,000 or thereabout police officers are supposed to have their tags on.
Sure.
If we find anyone without their tags, it should be regarded as a fake police officer.
No, it might not be regarded as a fake police officer, provided they have the ID card to, identify himself.
But should they be around?
No, they're supposed to carry their tag, but you cannot rule out some people could be negligent, without bringing, carrying, which is not allowed by us, because anybody found on election day, or carried out his duty on election day without his tag, without his, the tag, will be dealt with disciplinarily. It's just for us to identify our men and to know who are not part of us, who wants to infiltrate the electoral process.
So we do know that there is usually a rule by the police that all police escorts on special duties attached to VVIPs or VIPs are supposed to stand down.
That is
that right?
It is right.
From tomorrow morning.
The Inspector General of Police has given directive to that effect, and it's going to be properly, and effectively implemented. They have to stand down, because we don't want them to be seen as being, causing intimidation against their political party, other political opponents. So they have to stand down and allow their masters free movement without being escorted to any polling unit.
KDI says Akoko Southeast, Ileoluji, Okeigbo, Ilaje, and Eseodo, Idanre local government areas of Ondo State are possible flashpoint areas, and which raises security concern for this election based on what has happened in the past, history of those areas, and some of the recent activities in these areas. Are you particularly deploying more men and more soldiers, more officers to these places?
Jean, I want to remind you again that we have carried out a comprehensive threat analysis. And I want to thank you for giving that information to me. I will go back home and look at those areas. If there are those areas that fall within the areas that we have seen as, areas that we need to take care of, then I will do that.
They are also bothered about the post-election security. Are you ready for that? Have you prepared for that?
Very, very prepared.
The days after the election.
We have put in place our contingency strategic post-election plan that will, promptly react to any emerging issues after the result has been announced. And part of those things is for us to place our tactical units of standby to respond swiftly, then adequate deployment of our police officers to police or to effectively cover our police formation, that's barracks, police stations. Because definitely when people see, from experience, empirically, when anybody reacts to any result that does not favor them, one of the people that always face attacks are the police officers. So we are not taking anything for granted. We have a contingency plan to really deal with the post-election results.
Where are they? What are your worries, or what are your estimation in terms of post-election violence?
I'm not really seeing, to be sincere, I'm not really thinking that there's going to be any violence in Ondo State, because definitely my belief is that by the grace of God, the election will be very transparent, it will be free and fair, because all the political parties have their polling agents in all the polling units. All the collegiate centers will be well fortified, and adequate security will be in place to reassure people that nothing will tamper with the result of the election. And by the time the election result is announced and it's seen to be transparent and credible, I don't think that there's going to be any reaction, from anybody.
Finally, before we allow you go, DIG, there's a whole lot of apprehension, especially from what we saw in Edo, the agitation from opposition, what happens in the coalition, which is one of the soft spots of election, it's because it's getting dark, and there are those who are worried that coalition aspect of the election is very critical. Are you looking at that? Are you making special plans for it?
For any event that happens and there are lapses, it's a learning curve for whoever must have gotten involved. So if there are lapses in what happened in Edo State, I think that must have given us an insight on what to do and do better than what we did in Edo State. Definitely, one of my strategic plans is to heavily fortified the collegiate centers.
DIG, what kind of assurance are you giving Nigerians, especially Ondo State people, that this election will be different? And can we hold you accountable? And can we hold your words to it tonight? That what DIG Alabi is telling us tonight, we can go to bed with our two eyes closed, waking up tomorrow morning and saying that police in Nigeria will be of the best behaviors and the best conduct for tomorrow's election.
Yes, Chill, I want to really assure Nigerians, without sounding modest, particularly people who have been following my career trajectory, they know what I always stand for. I want to assure Nigerians, particularly those people, that the election of tomorrow will be transparent. Police will be very, very professional. We are going to be neutral. We are not going to take side because we are not supposed to do that. And we'll ensure that things are done properly the way they're supposed to be done.
We're counting on your words, and we'll be holding you to your words. Is there any final words you would like to share with us before you go?
Well, just to thank you for bringing me to this program, and for me to be able to tell Nigerians and particularly those people that under my command and watch, they should expect a very, very transparent, peaceful, and free and fair election tomorrow.
DIG Abiodun, right?
Yes.
Abiodun Alabi, thank you so much. He's a DIG coordinating election security, and we do know that you have support also from NSCDC,
yes,
the EFCC, and other security agencies. Yes. Are they cooperating?
Fantastic. They are very, very cooperative because, like the IG said, at the national level, there's a robust and healthy relationship between him and other service chiefs and the heads of security agencies, and that has cascaded down to both the state and the zonal commands. And in this state in particular, since I came on board, I've seen that happening here, that the communal police and other heads of security agencies are having a very fantastic, robust relationship.
So your job with the military and the police and the military is different. They man the perimeters, you take charge of internal.
Sure.
That is the idea,
yes,
for tomorrow's election.
Yes.
Thanks so much, DIG. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
And I wish you and your men the very best.
Thank you very much.
That's DIG Abiodun Alabi, DIG coordinating this election in Ondo State. We'll take a break, everyone, but when we come back, some analysis that will be very important, the figures and some facts that are very critical for this election. We'll be bringing them to you right here on the program. We'll be right back, everyone. For staying with us on our continued coverage of the Ondo governorship election 2024. Let's remind you of some of the facts and figures dated important for this election. Over 5 million people in Ondo State, and of course 18 local government areas. And for this election, 3,933 other polling units that are captured, 3 senatorial districts, and of course, what we do know is that the number of registered voters is 2,053,061 voters that are registered. But out of those who are registered, those people who have collected their PVCs, and in essence, those are the ones that you should say are active voter for tomorrow. 1,757,025. The uncollected PVC stands at 295,856. It's 85.6% percentage of collected PVCs to the registered voters. And we know that Ondo State has some interesting terrain, hills, mountains, water bodies, riverine areas, oil-producing communities, and mining areas, very huge potentials for mineral resources in the state. And that's why perhaps anyone who becomes the governor of the state is going to be critical on how to utilize those potentials. But let's get some more facts and figures as far as this election is concerned. I'm being joined by the Executive Director of Kimpact Development Initiative, KDI, Mr. Bukola Idowu, who is live with us here in our studio in Akure. Thanks so much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
I referenced your KDI report ahead of this election of tomorrow, and it does look like you have your fears as an organization. You identified hotspot and hotbeds and flashpoint areas, 5 local government areas you have identified that security agencies need to look out for. What informed those warnings that you have given?
So number one is the history of electoral violence in those places, because you cannot talk about the present without talking about the past. So we have to go back to up to 4 election cycles. You know, this is the 7th governorship election that the state will be having. So we have to go back to 4, at least 4, to look at the trend. And then you find out that cases of election violence are constant in those local government. That is number one. Number two, one of the things you also need to know when doing this kind of analysis is also look at the number of registered voters in those places. You also have to look at the PVC collected in those places. Most often, you don't find election violence happen in places where you have few registered voters, because there is nothing their political party are fighting for. And so you have to, number one, history of election violence, then you look at the registered voter PVC collected in that particular area, if it is something that to fight for. Again, you also have to look at the spread of the candidate. So where is it likely going to be, where you call, where the people, the battlegrounds.
Yeah.
So for instance, you have some political party candidates coming from the south. So you have some coming from the north. So then if you don't have much coming from the center, then that looks like where everybody wants to go and just look for votes. So, and in that particular instance, that space is open for everybody. And then you have more of these instances in those political areas. So these are some of the indices we put together, and then you ask, then again, you also look at the movement of the people. So in some instances, you have to track over time to see what exactly is going on here. What exactly are the people looking at? So you also have to look at the attitude of the people in that particular place. So in fact, in some places, you find that people are already envisaging this is going to happen. Some want to relocate, some want to leave. And then you also look at the influx of the people in some of those particular places. So when you now begin to see few days to the election or few months to the election, you now begin to see strange faces just because of the election in that particular places. Then people now begin to say, oh, what exactly is going on? We are seeing strange faces here. So at that particular point, you ask, oh, look, this place, something might happen in this particular place. Then you have to really look more deeply into that particular space.
So you identified Akoko Southeast, Ile Oluji, Okeibo, Ilaje, and Eseodo, Idanre local government areas of the city, 18 local government, and you've identified 5 that are possible flashpoints. Though the DIG tried to play down on those, and I think it's psychological also, that when people know that there are possibility of violence, 2 things that it could bring, psychological issues in relation to voter awareness, voter turnout, and that's why perhaps the DIG was trying to play it down. But then, do you think that you have seen enough effort by security agencies in line with what you have identified in these hotbeds?
Yes, I think in all fairness, we've seen that the security agencies are really putting this in place. Don't forget, we've even shared this with them. We've met with them, we've shared this with them several times, and they also have their deployment plan, which we just feel that this should just fit into the deployment plan. But for me, I think in all fairness, we have seen that, and I don't expect the DIG to also escalate the whole issue on the national TV. But what I think is that what we want to see is the strategic deployment in this area. Now, and when I say strategic deployment, you have to look at a situation where you deploy before the election, which they have done, and again on the election day, and in terms of the double deployment. When I say the double deployment, now the people at the polling unit and the security agency roving around, and then most especially post-election. So when you look at the history of Ondo State, the issue has always been post-election violence, even right from the days of Adekunle Ajashin and Omoboriowo. It has always been post-election. The time of Agagu, it has always been post-election. Even the Mimiko, post-election violence.
So that's an area that they need to watch out
They
for.
really need to watch.
You identify 2 local government areas that are very critical, and these people are Ugbo and Ilaje people living in that area. Ilaje, SAO, the local government, and these are riverine areas in Ondo State, which gives you some kind of concern. Could it be the water bodies around these communities that gives you this kind of concern too?
So one of the things you also need to know is that those people in those places primarily are not even the Yoruba people. They are also the Ijos. In fact, you find that they speak Ijo and have a direct link from that waterways to Bayelsa, to Delta, to just like that. So now, and again, when you are looking at this, it is not like the Akoko area that have a boundary with Kogi that you mourn roadblock in that particular place, so that the interstate movement comes in. But we are talking about riverine area where speedboat, everything can just move in directly to other states in that particular place. So you can find influx of people coming from, most especially militants, cultists, and all of them easily come from the riverine area, from these neighboring states that are also the boundary to the waterways, to come right there in that particular place. And again, one of the things you need to know is that when you look at the history of electoral violence, you want to see that this, when in terms of constant factor, constant local government that have been appearing constantly, at least for the past 4 election cycles, that Ilaje and that riverine SLDO are very, very constant in that particular area. Riverine area, they have issue of logistic deployment, things coming late, and now you have candidates coming from that particular area. Then it's a place to watch. It's a place to watch.
I discovered that out of the 5 local government areas, there are about 2 local government areas that you identify in Ondo South, Ilaje, Eseodo. Yeah. You identify a few in the central. Yeah. You're talking about Akoko Southeast. You identified a few in Ondo North. Yeah. You seem to have the share of the flashpoint seems to have gone around all the 3 senatorial districts.
Yes, but because, in fact, some people are of the opinion. I remember we are having a conversation, and some people have the opinion that no, the entire South, have to be the entire riverine area, the South have to be flashpoints. Yeah. No, because the dynamics, you cannot use the same narrative for the to say, look, everywhere have to be a flashpoint. But don't forget, you have the 2 candidates of, APC candidate and PDP candidate coming from there. There is also a narrative, and that is why you single out, you have to isolate and put it in proper perspective. There is also a narrative that look whether A or B. If it goes to A, if it goes to B, the governorship seat, they retain it in that particular South. So there is this tendency and the community consensus to say, look, let's be well behaved, let's get our act right here, because whether A or B, then this governor is still with us here. So, and that is why you cannot categorize the entire South and say it's going to be whether they are from the riverine area or not. But you have to look at some places where you find out that One, history of election violence. Two, you also look at some other factors, in terms of how strong those political parties are in those particular local governments.
So you identify.
But when you go to the north now, you also have to look at it. As regard their closeness to Kogi. And those particular areas. And then again, one of the things you have to look at is that you have seen non-electoral violence happen in some places. For instance, the killing that happened in Owo and the alleged accusation that those people come from other states, from the north center, Kogi. So you find out that, look, those places are just the borders. That border around that particular site. Then you also have to look at how close is that particular place we pick, most especially Owo, Ose, to Edo State, who have just concluded their election. Are they coming in? Are people moving in there? Are they perpetrating evil and then quickly move into the other states? So those are those dynamics.
I think the security agencies need to be watching out for these, and the voters also need to be on guard and ensure that they're not in harm's way in all of these. You've identified very likelihood of violence or of trouble in Owo, Idanre, and Ile Oluji, and also somewhat likely those areas that are more Okitipupa, Irele, Odigbo, Odo West, Ilaje, Odo, Ose, and the rest, and they're not likely, Interestingly, there are just about 3 of local government area in the whole entire 18 local government areas. But let's make sense of what you identified are the limitation of in this Ondo election. And you have identified that there seems to be some kind of growth and upward in the progression of the number of voters in Ondo State. What have you identified?
So what's delimitation around the election is a very crucial aspect that people need to really understand and see how this affects the election. So what we are trying to say here is that we are trying to talk about a situation where the spread, and this is the first time that Ondo State will be having governorship election with new polling units that were created in 2023. So new polling units were added in 2023, and this will be the first time they will be having election with those new polling units. And however, if you look at it, one of the things we are saying is that, look, from 2016, or even from 2012, 2016 and 2020, you have that, look, the voter, registered voter were just probably increasing at a marginal rate. But the moment we get to 2024, now it has actually increased, spike a bit, which is like about 2,053,000. So from what we have in the past, however, what is the distribution of the polling unit? Now, because if you now have to go to the slide, you will see where we now begin to say, look, there are polling units in those places that have more than you have more than 1,000 in those polling units. You have one that are more than 500. So what we are trying to say is that the spread of the polling unit, we determine the early closure of the election. So, which means if we have, subject to high voter turnout, if we have high voter turnout, because one of the things we discover is that most of the new polling units that were created were more in the urban center, urban local government, than in those rural local governments. So what it means is that we need to begin to look at these areas as very, very crucial. So what it means is we are not fully, for instance, when you look at this data, if we have high voter turnout tomorrow, don't expect election to conclude early enough, for instance, in Akure South, that benefit more from the new polling unit and also have one of the highest registered voter. So this is what we are saying. So we have to now look at it that, hey, now, and what we are trying to say is that, look, deploy early into those places that we are talking about now. So these are the places that we are not expecting you to have late commencement of vote, because you have more people in those places.
Yeah.
You have more voter register, and you have more polling units in those areas. So you deploy more early to be able to conclude the election, and that is the implication.
Let me take you to the fact in comparative analysis, the number of registered voters from 2012, as indicated in the, and that's in the last 4 election cycle in Ondo State, identify that about 83 or 85% of PVC collection, and that's a good one. Just about 200,000 or so PVCs have yet to be collected. Over 2 million registered voters, 1.9 million or so have their PVC. So if you look at it from 2012, the number of registered voters since 2012, 1.6 million, 2012, 1.6 million, a few thousand higher than 2012 in 2016. In 2020, about 200,000 more, 1.8 million, and 2023, 1.9 million. But for this election, it's the number of voters that have been collected PVCs is 1.7 million, although 2 million people are registered. It's grown, but the actual voter, from my own point of view, is the 1.7 that we need to focus, we can bank on.
Yes, that is what it means. And Sheil, for me, and I think this is the conversation we need to begin to have now, because what it means is this: tomorrow is those 85% of the people we are expecting to come and vote. 85% of the people who have collected their PVC, those are the people we are expecting to come out and vote tomorrow. So we need to play down, we have 2,053,000 voters. INEC is not expecting the entire 2 million to come and vote. They said, look, the people who have collected PVC, 1.7, those are the people we are expecting to come and vote. However, this is also the issue here. And this is one of the things we need to begin to look at, and to look at it. By the time we are calculating our voter turnout, we are going back to calculate based on registered voter, not based on PVC collected. So we need to begin to interrogate these dynamics. However, it is good that we have 85% PVC collection, encouraging, but we want to see at least 50% of the 81.7 coming out to vote in this election tomorrow. Or else, we now begin to ask the same question over and over. Who collected the PVC? Where are they on the election day?
We've had voter turnout has been very low, and I don't know, maybe we need some medicine to be able to fix it, or vaccine, voter inducement vaccine, so that voters can come out on election day to vote. Because I don't know what else voters will need as an encouragement to, other than the awareness that is being used. But let me take you to the comparison per local government area. And for me, the political parties and the politicians have already, if they've not done their homework in this regard, it's too late. So you look at it and you discover that you need to be looking at the likes of Akure South, Ondo West. These are the big these are the big local government areas that that the politicians will be fighting for votes. And if you look at it from 2016 to 2020 and 2024, the progression is constant. And this local government, especially Akure South, if you win Akure South massively, you have done very, very well in terms of vote margin.
And again, that is one implication of this. So if you win that Akure South, because that is where you have higher number of PVC collected, you have the number of registered voters, but at the same time, it also means that whoever Akure South, the like of Akure South is supporting in this election, can also have their 50%, the coast is clear for the person. So like you said, they will have done their analysis. And that is why, when you now look at Akure South, you remember we painted Akure South as a place prone to violence. Because they are likely going to come to this area and jostle for votes. And don't forget, this Akure South, Owo, and that's
Ondo West.
These are the areas that we can actually tag as the battleground in this election, because they are moving into these places to go and get votes. And at the same time, the other dynamic is this: these people, whoever they support, are likely, wherever they decide to swing their vote into, are likely going to win. And that is why it's too early to say, hey, this is not going to be a close contest.
The big 5 local government areas in terms of the registered voters and the PVC collected. The big 5 local government, Akure South. You talk about Ondo West.
Yes.
You talk about Owo. Talk about Odigbo, and talk about Ilaje. These are the big local government areas, and so they are spread across the different senatorial districts. If you are able to capture and win the votes in these areas, you are almost clearing the coast in terms of seeing a huge margin of vote. Imagine that Akure South alone has over 300,000 registered voters out of the over 2 million registered voters in the state, and it has over 200,000 PVC collected. So if you win massively in Akure South, you've done very well.
You have done very well, and that is good. Now, if you are also, and again, when you go to Ilaje is not likely going to go to anybody. It's going to be the vote is going to be shared there, because the two leading candidates, the two candidates are from those areas. So, it's like there are some contested.
Multiplicity of the presence of the heavyweights.
Heavyweights in that particular place. So they are likely, and that is why people will have to go and bank on those places. But at the same time, it's still going to be very, very interesting, because by the time you now begin to calculate the two-thirds, you now begin to calculate this 25% spread. And that is why I said, look, nobody can just say this election is going to be one way. It's still going to be keenly contested with what we are seeing.
And there's a whole lot of work in terms of the polling unit distribution. For example, you have Akure South with the number of polling units per LGA as of now 596. That is huge.
Yes,
596. And you see, between 1999 and 2022, until the delimitation happened, it's just about 302. Something has happened. A lot of massive increase in the population in the area, increase in registered voters that have shifted. And the concept is that if you have voters more than a particular figure, the delimitation has to happen, because a polling unit is not allowed to have more than a certain number of voters. It's going to be interesting how the big 5s, look out for them tomorrow. The big 5 local government area, your Akure South, your Ondo West, your Odigbo, your Ilaje, your Owo. You can talk about Okitipupa, Akoko Southwest, and the rest. But those big 5, you do well there, you will cause us.
And then you also have to look at those places, beam the light on those places tomorrow, because as the politicians are justly for that particular place, then there are other issues that we have to be rearing their head there. So logistics have to be perfect here, commencement have to be tight here.
Akure South is within the capital city.
It's within the capital.
Ondo West is just about an hour and a half.
But sure, that doesn't really matter. Because when you cast your mind back to Edo, late commencement happened right in Oredo local government.
In Orionwa.
So that doesn't really matter. And that, again, you also have to look at it when you look at the Akure South. So, most times we joke about, the Akure South, that where the collation is taking place, is the result that came late. This could be the reason, because you have more people there. Voting may extend late to the night. collation extend, because by the time, for instance, by the time Akoko Southeast will have finished their election, then Akure South, they are still voting. So that is the implication. So what we are now saying is that INEC should deploy early enough into that place. They should not even think that, oh, let the farthest place go first. Give everything importance.
But you stated something in your analysis, and in your analysis you say there are hard to reach areas in Ondo State, and you've identified them. They hard to reach local government areas, including Ilaje, Eseodo, Akoko Northwest, and Akoko Northeast. What gave you the impression of these communities? Why did you identify them to be the hard to reach areas in Ondo State?
So as a matter of fact, INEC even have like about 5 local governments. We only identify 4. So but the 4 I'm in agreement with what INEC did. So one, there are places in this, let's look at that, Akoko Northwest and Akoko Northeast. There are places in this place, in this local government, that you have to be on 2 hours on bike before you get to those communities. And that is the implication. In some places, you have to stop, trek to get to those particular places.
In Akoko
Northwest, in Akoko Northeast. Then you come down to Ilaje. These are riverine areas where you take ferry, where you take speedboat. But I am happy the militaries, they are involved. But at the same time, you see, the deployment can only be in terms of the rack center and everything. But even there are polling units in communities where you have that, you have to still go on water to get to those polling units in those communities. So these are hard to reach. And it also depends. And when you say hard to reach, it's not because, water and there's means of transportation alone, but you also have to look at the safety of what you have taken to those particular places. For instance, how many bike men, so probably the police will take some bike, and then the man with the election material will be on another bike and move 2 hours to those particular places. So, but what we are trying to say is that these are hard to reach area. Number one, you have to see what you do in terms of deployment. How do we deploy? What are the strategies? Do we deploy earlier than the rest of the people? What is the security implication of moving ahead before the deployment? Before the official deployment. What is the security implication, or what are we going to do?
But because these areas like Zion Luabo, Ayetoro, Awoye, Orioke, and the rest, where you have to go by boat into these communities to be able to reach them. We've gotten assurances in terms of security that they have enough transportation. INEC is also saying we have enough transportation on the water for all of these water side, and hopefully they're able to be able to capture these areas quickly. And one thing that you mentioned that is also very important for a lot of people who are watching is that it's not only arriving on site. Yes, it's good to be at the rack before, but also the fact, the major part that we need to look out for is that what happens after the election, immediately when voting closes.
That is
and this is where the major problem when it comes to result in this area. Over the years, result has always been awaited from those Ilaje, from Eseodo. And long in the night, collation goes on and on in these areas.
Now, most of the time that we talk about hard to reach area, we talk about deployment. We don't talk about collation. And the essence of what we are talking about is not about your deployment. You are deployed to the rack. Now, but that is what we've deployed to those hard to reach areas. We are not going to have the problem. They are helping us. But where you have problem is the deployment from those hard to reach areas, from the rack center in those hard to reach areas to the polling unit, number one. And if you make it there early enough, then the question is how you now revert to the collation center and to the state local government headquarters and to the state on time, because they were hard to reach. Because look, we have planned now, we have been there 2 days. You know, for instance, in some racks open in those places yesterday. Movement can be done even today. But don't forget, on election day, you are not going to wait 2 days to move back. You vote, the voting ends immediately. You are collecting to move back immediately. And that is where the problem is. That is where the delay is. It's not even the deployment. It is coming because you take your time in deployment. You can move it to the rack and then you relax. You sleep over at the rack center, and then the following morning you can move as early as 5. However, to those places. However, when you finish voting on election day, if you finish voting at 7 p.m., let's put it that way, then you have to tabulate or collate and come back that same day. So you don't have that laxity to say, okay, I'm waiting. And that is where the challenge is.
Right.
So it doesn't affect the deployment alone, because we can be looking at it as deployment. What about bringing back the results, the sensitive material? How do we protect that? So for instance, where you are going to be 2 hours on bike, so in that in that night, you have to come back, you know, because at the World Collation Center, they are waiting for you.
We're due for a break. Yeah, but there are 4 challenges or difficulties that I've identified that could happen tomorrow. And those 4 difficulties are not only identified based on just a flippant analysis, but it's based on what happened in the last election in 2020. We'll be talking about them, and also if any political party cry foul tomorrow, blame them. We'll tell you the reason why that will happen after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us here in our makeshift studio in Akure, the Ondo State capital, and our continued coverage of Ondo governorship election. Well, there's a whole lot that is going to happen tomorrow. For those of you who are going to wake up early in the morning, wake up to our coverage as early as 7 a.m. right in the center of the polling unit. You will see for yourself how things are panning out and whether or not there are improvements in our election. Let's get back to the analysis of this election of tomorrow. Just a few hours away, and we are counting down already. Bukalaido, the executive director of KDI, Impact Development Initiative, has been talking with me right here. 4 difficulties faced in 2020, which could also happen tomorrow if care is not taken by INEC. And these are beavers malfunctioning, late arrival of voting materials, delay in attending to voters, incompetent ad hoc officials. These are the 4 items that you, 4 things, difficulties that you identified.
Top 4 in 2020. So what we asked the people, the survey we did with over 2,000 sample size in Ondo, you voted in 2020. What were the top 4? So when we tabulate it, interestingly, beavers malfunctioning was one of them, late arrival of material was one of them, delay in attending to voters, and then incompetence of ad hoc staff. But again, so we can excuse the issue of beavers malfunctioning. And the reason we can excuse that was in 2020, Ondo and Edo was the first set of election that beavers will be used for the first time. So it's possible, the teething problem and everything. However, when you look at the recent elections from Kogi, Imo, Bayelsa, even in Edo, beavers have been functioning effectively. Even in 2023 general election, so you have beavers functioning. So what we are just looking at now is, look, these are the issues people face in last governorship election in the state. So how do we benchmark it? We want to see if we have if there have been progress in that. Now again, so I said let's excuse beavers malfunctioning because in 2020 they can have teething problem. That was the first time they will be using beavers. Now come to late arrival of voting material. This one happened in 2020, happened in 2023, happened in 2023 general elections, in some places, this also happened in Kogi, Imo, Bayelsa, and Edo in some local government, not generally. So, which means this one, late arrival of voting material, is a monster that has not, that we have not been able to tame in the electoral process in Nigeria. However, how we manage this tomorrow is another case entirely. But I keep saying this election is one of the elections that you have INEC well prepared for. As a matter of fact, when you look at the incompetence of ad hoc officials tomorrow, we don't expect that to happen tomorrow. Why? Because the corpers were trained for 13 weeks for this election. And that is why I said this is one of the elections that is well prepared for. 13 weeks for this election. So we don't expect. So
no failure.
It's not going to be tolerated. How can you train people for 13 weeks? Deploy them for the election?
And again, you just had an election in Edo State.
In Edo State. Some of them were there.
All of the issues should have been identified and resolved. One would think. But quickly, let me take you to one area. And that's what I said. Any political party that cry foul after this election should be caned. If you are not captured to have performed well in this particular analysis, shut up. Now, and this is the reason. There are 74,790 expected cumulative figure. Uploaded by political parties, 24,148. KDI is telling us that out of the 18 political parties nominated, 32.3% of the expected number of agents. 3 political parties have no agents at all levels of polling or collation. Now, the question is that they come around and say, something has gone wrong. Your representation on the ground to be able to identify for you where the trouble could be, you have not identified. You say you're a political party. No party agent at all in all of the polling or collation center. You do not have any right to talk, I think.
Absolutely. Spot on. See, political parties are meant to deploy party agents to the tune of 74,790 party agents. So which means 17 political party agents multiplied by 3,933 polling units. So that will give us that 74. That is what they are expected. However, what we have for this election that they deploy was 24%, just 32%. 24,148, just 32%. Now, if you check the next slide, you will see the distribution of how those political parties fared. And you are spot on, and that is our concern. If you are contesting in an election, for instance, 3 political parties have no party agent at all. 3 political parties have no party agent at all. So
they are blind on sight.
APGA, no political party agent. Boot Party, no political party agent. NRM, no political party agent. And yet they have governorship candidates.
Right to talk. Because how do you then say someone won the election when you don't have representation on the ground?
So look at it. You have APC supposed to even have 3,933 polling unit agents. However, they have 3,892. PDP had 3,931, short of 2. So these are the 2 political parties that have above 3,000. Now, you have 4 political parties above 2,000, which was Party Accord, have 2,365 polling unit agents. NNPP have 2,100, and then you have SDP and ZLP.
So now you will see, and invariably, you will see those who made efforts. You will see those who, because also one thing you need to understand is that
what it means is that 2 election cycles, registered voter 1.8, 1.6, that is 2016 and 2020. But by the time it comes to PVC collection, can you see the dip? It came down. Then accreditation on election day, it came down again. Then total vote cast, it came down. So what it means is that across every processes of that election, of our election, it keeps coming down. And what we want to bring out here is this. It's just simple management principle we are saying here. Is it time for us, Sheil, to begin to think about shortening the process? This is 4 stages of the election, and it keeps coming down. Election doesn't have to be cumbersome. In fact, this is better. You know, again, I think in 2022, there was a layer added to it, register online. So if you register online, you go back to do your physical captioning. Then after that, you go to collect your PVC. That is 3 layers already. Then after that, on election day, you queue, do accreditation. So we need to shorten that process.
I've been an advocate of saying we do not need anyone to create anything as voter card or permanent voter cards. I think it's nonsensical. I think naturally what the law says is that any Nigerian of adult age, meaning 18 years, is eligible to vote in Nigeria. That is an automatic constitutional status that the law has given you. And I imagine that if a Nigerian has an identity, one thing that is important there, based on the position of the Constitution, 2 things. The fact that you're a Nigerian, the second that you have come of age. What could easily give us that identification, or what could easily identify that for us? Your basic national ID. And when that happens and you are captured, naturally, as a citizen of Nigeria who has come of age, you should be able to walk into any police...
With your ID.
With your ID. I mean, if you can now take it further to say you identify as a voter, you understand, so that you can be captured in the database, but you do not need, because PVC collection is a deterrence of some sort. And I think that for some reasons, those lawmakers and those who are advocating, it is a barrier to voter turnout, it's a barrier to participation, which I think we should jettison.
So you have taken this from the constitutional and the legal perspective. Let me even go to the technical perspective, so that we look at the 2 perspectives together. Yeah. Number 1, PVC, permanent voters card, should have expired with smart card reader. That is how it should have been. Because as of today, the Beavers doesn't read PVC. Beavers doesn't read it. So when you look at the accreditation tomorrow, people only show it and they look at it. And then, so why do we need that PVC? What should we do if your name is on the register and my biometric data are inside that the Beavers? All I need to come to is my name is number 40 on the register, and then okay, what is your name? You see it, and then I put in my biometrics, and it's me. But now somebody doesn't have voter's card, his biometrics and everything is right there, and yet he cannot vote.
Because the thing is that for me, if CBN can use your BVN to identify all your banking transactions, if your NIN can be used for... So why it is nonsensical for us to have a voter card? So I think that what is fundamental, because those who do not have a PVC, those who cannot make themselves available to collect their PVC are automatically shortchanged.
So look at that data again. In 2020, 1.8 million registered. To come and collect their vote, we lost over 400,000 people who could not come and collect their PVC, rather.
There are over 200,000 PVC yet uncollected.
However,
and guess what? Calculate how much it costs Nigeria
to produce
one PVC. And a lot of these PVC there are photographs and videos of how some of these PVCs were found in the gutters, in drainages.
It is time we do away with PVC.
I think it's commonsensical And I think that we have come of age to identify that we need to use a data that is central to say, where do you reside? Are you eligible to vote? Yes. Are you a Nigerian? Yes. Those are fundamentals. And if you want to vote, just simply go and identify that I want to vote in this election by just going online.
Let's even say you capture all my biometrics.
Yeah.
I just need to walk to the place and confirm that I am the person.
Yeah.
You do my facials or you do this. Why am I looking?
All right. I think we need to wrap up this conversation quickly. You have projected and you predicted what could be a voter turnout for tomorrow. I want to know how you came back.
Just basically looking at what we use
projections.
Projections, and then we look at the predictive modeling, and we are saying, look, with what we are seeing, if is going, the highest is 30%, and the lowest might be 27%. That is what we are looking at.
So that's what we're looking at. On a final note, what gives you the biggest worry about this election?
Result management.
And you gave an example, of course, of the EC40Gs uploaded on IREF in Edo State, and how it's being handled. And those examples that you gave is how well the officials are able to handle the results.
Yeah. So that what is giving me concern on this election tomorrow is not about the process. INEC is going to get the process right, everything is going to work well, but the result management. And I said three things. Number one, how the number of invalid votes will make a difference in this election. Then the margin of lead. If the margin of lead is touched, manipulated, or obstructed, or not well calculated, could mean a whole lot of difference. And then transparency around EC40G. Because in Edo, even if you still go on IRS, 22 polling units have EC40G, mentioning that election was cancelled in those places. But at the collation center, the state returning officer, we had any cancellation, they said no cancellation, no cancellation. What that have done was that what you have cancelled and you added it back has now widened the margin of lead. We shouldn't have been. So if there is any concern I have for this election is how well we manage collation, the result management is the key thing.
It's going to be very important, and I'm hoping that with some of the information and data that we've shared tonight, it gives an average voter the need to be able to be more inquisitive. The reason why you cannot sit at home, if you are in Ondo State today and going into tomorrow morning, you don't have any excuse to be watching movies at home or watching football. You've got to go out there and exercise your civic responsibility. You know, when you do, whether your candidate win or not, it gives you some sense of satisfaction that you have played your own role in building your nation. Leave the rest to others and keep them, put their feet to fire, being an active citizen. You cannot sit at home and complain in the corners of your home. All of us must be. In fact, if you are not participating in this election at all, wherever you may be watching, 7 a.m. tomorrow, Channels Television will be on the ground before the polling units open. We will let you see how the polling units are opening as early as 7 a.m. and we will monitor for you an election coverage like no other media organization can, because we are your election headquarters right here on Channels Television. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Bukola, thank you so much. And we'll see you on the field tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, that's our continued coverage, and this is how we put a stop to our programming, a special edition of Politics Today. We'll be prepared for news at 10, and tomorrow morning is going to be the robust coverage like no other can give to you right here in the nation. I'm Sean Kimale on behalf of the crew right here, spread across Ondo State for Channels Television. Bye-bye, and see you tomorrow morning.